Every artist gets asked the question, where do you get your ideas? The honest artist answers, I steal them. Stealing sounds like a bad thing, right? But that's sort of what we're going to be doing in this video, so girdle your loins and let's get started. There are 4 stages to our process here. Number 1, data gathering. Number 2, data analysis. Number 3, data application. And number 4, refining. Phase number 1, data gathering. First, we need to gather inspiration to work off from. This is when sources like Pinterest, every artist's favorite website, or Behance come into play. But make sure to gather your sources selectively. Pick the ones that you would like to incorporate in your work. At this stage, picking a lot may seem better, but less is more. Don't overwhelm yourself right off the get-go. Remember, hoarders collect indiscriminately, artists collect selectively. Also, please do be wary of any AI-generated art, especially on Pinterest, as you can sometimes find a chock full of AI images on there. So here are a few tips of mine when you're scouring the web for inspiration. If you're using Pinterest, make sure to check the person's profile, as this can be very telling if they are uploading AI art, and always check the comments because some user will always be kind enough to tell you that this is AI art and those people are doing God's work. I love you guys. Also, another top tip, and I highly recommend you do this instead of just blindly searching the internet, and that is to directly search for the work of a specific artist you admire and go straight to their online portfolio if they have one. But generally, in this day and age, every artist will have an online portfolio of some sort. Phase number 2, data analysis. Firstly, you want to begin by picking out key features that you would like to do in your own work. For example, let's say I have this cool artwork as one of my references, and I really like how the eyes are drawn, so I'll crop this picture just to show the eyes to save in my reference sheet. This stage is pretty much just finding things you like about somebody's artwork and noting it down so we can use it for later. As an example, here is my reference sheet which I made in Clip Studio, but you can use any other app that you want to use like Photoshop or maybe even Canva. Anyways, I kept my reference sheet pretty simple and straightforward, and I also added here some little notes on the side. So for example, when I was looking at this illustration, which is by an artist on Twitter, I remember really liking the strong lighting on the face, and so I wrote down interesting lighting. This one is a sketch by Night Zhang. I just really liked the way the face is rendered here. I also really liked how dynamic and fluid the poses were that she drew for this sketch. The same thing here. This is also by another artist from Twitter. I really like the perspective on this pose. That is the reference sheet. Obviously, yours doesn't need to look like this. It can be really creative and colorful. Go wild if you want to. But now that we have this, we can proceed to the next step, which might be the hardest step yet. Phase number 3, data application. Now that you have a treasure trove of data to work off from, we'll take this data and mix it all up together. Think of this step as the equivalent to photo bashing or making a collage. I'm now going to take these key features and attempt to copy it. Emphasis on the word attempt because it may take you several tries, hours, or even days to do this. For example, if you like an artist's coloring style, you may have to learn about color theory, brushwork, etc., which I think is also the beauty of this process because you are learning and actually gaining knowledge that will be useful to you. But it can also be disadvantageous if you don't know what exactly to learn to copy what an artist is doing. And sometimes it's a matter of a difference in skill level which may take years of constant practice to develop. Especially if you're copying off an artist who, let's say, has 10 years of experience working in the industry and has been making art professionally for a very long time, you might find yourself not being able to copy what they're doing, and that's just a testament to the fact that it took them years of hard work to get to the level that they are at now. And you'll probably realize that there are just some things that will still be difficult for you, and it will just require consistent practice, and that's okay. So one way I like to study when doing this is not just through master studies, which is purely copying off another artist's work, but I like to take references. For example, here I have this portrait of a real life person, and I'm trying to draw them or paint them in the art style that I want, basically imagining how would this artist that I'm copying off from draw this reference. So I'm keeping that in mind when I'm doing this. Here I did another study using the reference on screen because I remember really liking the lighting, and I decided to draw John from Genshin Impact here for some reason. I don't know why. When I looked at the reference, I immediately thought, oh, it's Jean from Genshin Impact. Do you call her John or Jean? I don't know if I'm saying it right, but whatever. Anyways, back to the drawing. So if you guys want me to do an in-depth explanation video on how I render, I would love to do that for you. Just keep in mind that I'm a really bad teacher. I'm not very good at explaining things, which is ironic considering I'm making this video, but I digress. I was going to say something and then I immediately forgot. It slipped my mind. Oh yes, I remember now. I remember thinking that I wanted to make some sort of finished piece for this video, so this is why I did this study and made it look more complete. And I made a mental note that I wanted to include perspective, some sort of element of perspective in the piece, since in one of my references in the reference sheet, if you remember, I had this sketch where there was some really cool perspective going on, and I remember, okay, I want to do that, but I completely forgot. So this is what I ended up with. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it, although there could have been some improvements. I'm definitely not a big fan of how I painted the face, but that's just a matter of me putting in practice and eventually getting the hang of it and just improving. I know you hate to hear it, but it's just a matter of constant practice. Consistent practice is really the magic ingredient when it comes to art, and you're probably really tired of hearing this. I am too, but what can we do? Also, just playing around with the colors here using the tone curve, and ta-da, we have the finished piece, which brings me to the last phase, which is the easiest one, refining. This step is the simplest and easiest out of the entire process, and that is to continue to practice and apply what you've learned. Keep doing it until it becomes muscle memory and you don't even have to consciously think about it. Also, keep in mind that at this point you should not be relying on your reference sheet. You have to sear the images of your references into your brain. And that's it. We've finally reached the end of this video. Hopefully you guys found it useful, and if you didn't, well, I tried my best.